Hi, welcome to Getting Biblical, the show where I drink too much and talk about my favorite Bible stories. I am Matt Smith, your host, and thank you for joining us today. So, welcome back. This is part 2 of the story of Samson, the Bible's own superhero. We're going to start, even though it's a two-parter, and this is the second part, we're going to start off just like we would any show. It is kind of self-contained in this regard, which means that I'm going to talk about what I'm drinking first before we get into the story. Today I'm drinking what I consider my daily drinker. Not that I drink every day, Mom, but this is my go-to. I generally always have it on hand and never get tired of it. It's actually Jim Beam's Kentucky Bourbon, and it's a great value to always just have a handle of it. It's never breaks the bank and always is enjoyable for me. So I will drink this quite often. So I'm glad to be in my comfort zone here of drinking some bourbon and picking up where we left off on Samson. So if you remember from the last one, which you probably just listened to recently, he fell in love with one of the opposing societies, civilizations, whatever, the opposing peoples, women, and they were going to get married. It fell through. Things went south. He may or may not have caught 300 foxes and tied them together and put their tails on fire, sorta, and let them burn down a city. And then people got mad and killed his ex-fiancée and her father by burning them alive in their house, and he got mad and killed all of them, and then went and lived in a cave. So yeah, that's where we pick up. So he's living in a cave after all that, and at this point you might be thinking, Matt, what else is there to say? Where do we go from here? The man killed a lion as you would a goat with your bare hands, then ate honey out of its insides, and then killed 30 men and took their clothes and gave them to pay off a bet, and then caught 300 foxes and burnt down a village. Like, where do we go from here? And yes, those are all very exciting things and super fun to talk about. It does actually. The 300 foxes thing's kind of big. It's kind of hard to top that. I'm not gonna pretend. But there is some cool stuff left to say. There's a lot left to say, and where we really get into, not to hype up too much, we really get more into like his superpowers. Oh, that's the thing I forgot to mention in the last episode. So we talked about, if you remember, there were the three things, right? So like the Israelites, the chosen people, were under Philistine control for 40 years, and they had been upset about it and been praying for God to deliver them out of the hands of the Philistines. And he sent an angel that may or may not look like Chris Hemsworth to tell a man, Manoah, and his wife that they were going to have a kid, and he was going to deliver them out. But they said, in order for him to do what God wants him to do, you got to do these three things, which was the mom and the child, and now an adult, Samson. So the mom and Samson both weren't allowed to drink wine. Mom and Samson both were not allowed to eat unclean food, and non-kosher or whatever. And Samson was not allowed to cut his hair. There's another set of scripture earlier on in the Bible that, of course, we've skipped over. It was way back in like Leviticus or something like that, where there was this vow called the Nazarite vow or Nazarene vow, where if someone kind of a little bit think of like nuns or monks maybe that make vows of silence, or nuns making vows to not be married or have sex or whatever, that type of thing. But it was the Nazarite vow, where if one offered their themselves and their life and their lifestyle, everything to God, and that they would do these three things, abstain from wine, which clearly I'm out already. But anyway, they would abstain from wine and abstain from unclean food, and I guess not cut their hair. Then they would become a Nazarite was the term. I don't know if there's a history of them having any kind of superpowers or anything, but they were definitely revered and seen as closer to God and more connected, and all that type of thing. So that's what's happening. That was the underlying. I forgot to mention in the first episode of why they seem kind of random when Chris Hemsworth was just telling her what to do with the baby. It was making the baby a Nazarite, doing, which isn't fair. There's kind of like Samson as an infant or as an unborn child, even as a fetus, wasn't able to make that vow himself, which it is a personal thing, and it should have been. So I wonder if that's part of why he ended up becoming a kind of a dick kind of a douchebag in his life, because he didn't make that vow himself. It was made for him, and maybe there's a deeper meaning or deeper level there of trying to force something and beliefs and lifestyles on our children, religious or otherwise, that shouldn't be there. But we're not there. We're not here for that today. We're here to drink and talk about Bible stories. We're not going to go down that road. So anyway, but just want to let you know, it's the biblical version of Captain America's like super soldier serum, where you do those three things and you're connected to God, and he gives you the strength to kill a lion as if it was a goat with your bare hands, and those types of things. So it's definitely, there's no doubt that there was some supernatural forces. He wasn't just a buff, like ripped guy that just happened to be super strong and could kill lions like it was easy. There was another layer of superpowers happening, and that's what we're going to get into in the next section here. I felt the need to clarify that since I forgot to earlier. So where were we? So he's living in a cave after everything happened. The Philistines come back to his town, and I guess the cave was nearby his old town, like where his dad lived or whatever. So they go back. The Philistines, they come down, kind of like a quasi army come down. They're looking for him. They're looking to arrest him, and they don't see him, but they see like the leadership or whatever of his town, and so there's a bunch of like Israelites, a bunch of Jews there, and they're like, hey, your Samson guy just like set some foxes on fire and then killed a bunch of people, and we want to arrest him. And the Israelite people were like, oh, okay, well, we think we know where he is. We'll go get him for you. And I don't know, I think there might have been some more information where they like came to an agreement for some reason other than, I don't know, whatever, another reason. I don't know why they didn't just like point and say, he's over there, go get him. And they were like, nope, let us do it. But they did. Maybe they still liked him. Maybe they knew that he was one of them. They're like, you know what, we're going to take care of our own. We're going to go arrest him for you. But they also knew what Samson was and knew who he was, and they didn't really trust him 100% in that they didn't just send like one dude to go and arrest him. They sent 3,000. They sent 3,000 Jews to the cave to go grab Samson. And so he's just chilling out at the cave, thinking about that time he caught those foxes, wishing he had a dead lion honey buffet going on in the cave. And all of a sudden, 3,000 Jews show up, and they all go, "Why you do this? Why did you do this? Why did you bring this on us?" And Samson quite simply responds, "They deserved it, and I didn't have a choice. They needed to be done. They deserved it." And they're like, but you can't. You can't just be going and lighting foxes on fire, bro. You can't do that. That's not okay. So, like, listen, we need to arrest you and give you over to them, or there's going to be some trouble. Okay? Is that cool? And he says, you know what? Promise me that you guys won't kill me, and then we're cool. Right? So he's like, I don't care. If you want to tie me up, if you want to arrest me, whatever, I don't give a shit. Like, just promise me that you won't kill me. And they're like, nah, dog. We ain't trying to kill you at all. That's not our thing. We just need to arrest you and give you to them. And he's like, that's fine. I'm down with it. It's cool. Let's roll. So they tie him up, whatever. They bound his hands and stuff, and then they walk out of the cave. And so they all meet up with the Philistines, and they're all like, here he is. He's tied up. He's arrested. They're like, great, thanks. And we'll take it from here. Thanks so much. And so they take him, and the 3,000 like Jews or whatever, they leave. And so it's just Samson with the Philistines that had come and to them. And it says that the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson. He's unleashed, and he's going Super Saiyan at this point, right? Like, rah! And he breaks the rope off. And then it says he grabs the jawbone of a donkey. And he takes the jawbone of the donkey and just starts going to town on these people. And side note, in researching this just to make sure, so these are all stories that I'm familiar with and I love very much and I know about. Also, at the same time, there's some little details that I might be a little fuzzy on, so I usually kind of, in preparation for this show, reread some stuff. And I was led to believe in this passage my whole life that there was like a dead body skeleton, like a cowboy Clint Eastwood desert scene, like, you know, the skeleton of a cow or some kind of farm animal, like on the side of the road because apparently he ran out of water and dehydrated or whatever. You know, that kind of, you know, and like tumbleweeds rolling by. Like, I'd always, like, when I grew up with this idea that was what it was. There was like a skeleton of a donkey nearby, and he just bent down, grabbed the jawbone from it, and went to town defending himself and beating these guys up. And in reading it for the first time in a few years, I realized that the Bible doesn't actually specify if the jawbone was from a skeleton or from an actual, like, live breathing donkey, which might show you like how dark and twisted my mind is to even think that is a possibility. But I mean, really, this is the guy that's already killed 30 people to get clothes to pay off a debt and caught 300 foxes and set their tails together and with torches and everything that he's done. Like, why would he, like, if he, like, you look at, like, it's like the opposite of MacGyver. So, like, MacGyver's like, man, I really got to blow this door open. Where can I get a paper clip, like a gum wrapper foil, and a shoelace, and, you know, create an explosive? And I mean, maybe it's similar. I don't know. Ancient Bible times. Samson's like, I got these guys that I need to fight. What's around me? Nothing but a donkey. All right, I'll use your jawbone. Let me borrow this real quick. And maybe he just pulled the jawbone off of the live donkey, which now in my head I just envision Eddie Murphy's donkey character from Shrek just sitting there now without a jaw, saying like, and I'm not even going to do an Eddie Murphy impression, but you can imagine his voice and just like, what the hell happened? Like, just no jaw, just freaking out, like, and Samson's using the donkey jawbone to fend off these guys. Sorry, that was a very long tangent of just letting you know where my brain's at. Anyway, so whether it was from a live donkey that he yanked off for no reason, or it was the dried up skeleton of a previously dead donkey that was lying by the road, either way, he finds himself with the jawbone of a donkey as his weapon, goes to town fighting these guys. The Bible says that he fought them, and when the dust had settled, he had killed 1,000 men. Very nonchalantly, I might add. So Samson killed 1,000 men that day, I think is what it says, something like that. Like, no big deal, whatever. Also curious to note, one, if you want to believe that it wasn't as horrific as that, I mean, it's still an amazing feat, right? Again, that is superhero level, Captain America, Thor type level of, like, 1 versus 1,000. The Hebrew word for when it says like there were 1,000 men like died or whatever, that kind of key word there actually could also be translated to struck down, which also could be dead. So it doesn't rule it out, but also could just mean like he beat him up and knocked him out or whatever. So maybe there aren't 1,000 people dead, or maybe there were more than 1,000 guys there. Because remember, they talked the Jews into getting out of the cave, and there were 3,000 of those guys. So there was enough of a number of these dudes here to make them pull up, roll up 3,000 deep to the cave to get Samson out anyway. So maybe there were like 3,000 or 5,000 guys, but after the dust was settled, only 1,000 of them were dead, which I'm not good at baseball. I don't know what the batting average is if you kill 1,000 people of the 5,000, like what your numbers are statistically, but still impressive. You're just one dude with a jawbone of a donkey. Pretty crazy, Samson, you guy. And that's it. So he kills 1,000 people with a jawbone of a donkey like it's no big deal. Then he walks a little ways and he's worn out. He is busted ass tired from. I mean, you kill 1,000 people, man. You work up a sweat, right? That's no easy feat. And it's not like killing a goat with your bare hands, So he sits down and he's super thirsty. And then but this guy, man, he's such a badass. He's such a badass, right? But he's still he's such a whiny little douche. So he kills 1,000 guys with the jawbone, thanks to the superpowers, the spirit of the Lord, whatever. And then he's thirsty, and he cries to God and says, "You gave me all this power, and I've delivered your people by killing all these guys, but now you're gonna let me die of thirst." Okay, drama queen, hold up for a second. And so that's kind of what God says. He's but I guess God thought he had a point. So then it says, again, nonchalantly, and then God cracked open a mountain and water came out and Samson drank from the water that flowed out of the mountain. So not a lava volcano eruption, but a good Evian or whatever water flowing from the mountain just because he was complaining. And I love how he killed 1,000 men, no big deal. And then God cracked open a mountain and water came out just so that he could have something to drink. That's amazing. I don't know. It just doesn't even bat an eye at any of this stuff. And that's why I love these stories. And so anyway, so he drinks from the waters from the mountain and everything is fine. And then we get to the point where it just fast forwards, and we do as in TV shows, we do a big time jump, right? We just boom. Now 20 years later is where the next verse starts. 20 years later, and he's still a bachelor pretty much. He's still single. He never found love, after that whole incident before. And but people still hate him. Right, the surrounding villages all know of him as the foxes guy or whatever, or the guy, the jawbone donkey killer, whatever kind of hyperbole you want to add to it. I'm sure whatever they talked about him, but they all hated him and they still wanted him dead. And 20 years is a long time for those types of emotions to fester. And so he's in this town and he's with a prostitute actually, and he's sleeping after they'd done the deed. He's sleeping with the prostitute, and the prostitute finds out that people want him dead, and she actually ends up telling him hey man, I don't know if she actually was trying to look out for him, or she just is bad for business if one of your clients ends up stabbed or whatever, legit trying to assassinate him. They wanted to come in the middle of the night and just slit his throat or something like that. So she lets him know about it, about the whole plot to kill him. And when he finds out about it, so actually, you know what? Sorry, I jumped the gun. They weren't gonna do it in the middle of the night. I don't think they were actually gonna do it the next day in the morning, catch him first thing in the morning, at breakfast or something or brunch, and try to kill him there for whatever. But anyway, I guess he was a good paying client. She didn't want to lose him, so she tells him what the deal is because she finds out about it, and he's like, oh, you know what? And this wasn't his main town. This wasn't where his dad was at. I think this was one of the other towns. So he ends up oh, real? Oh, for reals? All right, thanks. And so he gets up in the middle of the night and wakes up and sneaks out, and he goes to the front gate of the whole city. So it's if you remember what on Aladdin, what Agrabah looked like, where Prince Ali, like that when they like marching in, like the gates of Agrabah, like he goes to those big, monstrous, like huge things. And I'm assuming that's how big they were. I don't know. But they were big enough, and that it's big enough that this part is impressive, right? As that's what we can ascertain from the Bible. And so he goes to the gates of Agrabah, and he rips the whole doors off, and the doors and the posts and everything. And he just carries the doors and the posts and all. He just carries it to a nearby hill that was by the front gate and just plants them. Just shoves them like stakes in the ground and just leaves them there on this hill. So anybody that comes near the front gate of the city of Agrabah, if you will, sees that the gates are torn off, but they're like planted. Maybe they're like gravestones, kind of like symbolic. I don't know, over there. And it's a very like, come at me, bro. Like move. Like, you trying to kill me? Like, I got a hose on my side. Like I'm 2 steps ahead of you. Also, you don't have a front door to your city. Don't come at me. Very that's actually one of my, I don't know why, but one of my favorite things that he did. It's just like he didn't defend himself. He just like, I'm gonna tear the door off your whole city and show you what's up, and don't mess with me. And I think it's very, and maybe he matured a little bit in the 20 years since we left him after killing 1,000 people with the jawbone of a donkey. Anyway, so he does that, and they decide, I guess, not to kill him right then and there. And he leaves that town, of course, because you can't stay in a town that you tear the doors off the whole town. And he goes into the town, and there he meets, and if you've ever heard this story before, this is the female that you're familiar with. He meets Delilah. He meets Delilah and falls in love with her. And she's kind of a hot mess. I mean, I guess she's gorgeous, but she's not, like, he's in love with her, and she's just kind of like with him. Like, she's with him, but whatever. Like, I don't know. She still has her ties to the Philistines and everything. And so the Philistines got to her, and they bribed her and said, hey, if you could, while you're banging him and stuff or whatever, like, could you figure out what the source of his power is and why he's so strong and why he can do all these things? And if you tell us and we can kill him, then we'll give you a big prize. We'll give you a payday, a payout. She's like, yeah, that's cool. I'm in. Count me in. So the first night comes. They do their thing. And they're cuddling afterwards, and she's like, I just imagine like she's next to him, and like she's kind of got like the little like the one finger on his chest or whatever, like a little swirly thing that the girls do. That's awesome. And she's like, oh hey, by the way, where do you get your strength from? Why are you so strong? He's like, starts to like try to brag, and he's like, oh, whatever, If they were to tie me up with 7 fresh ropes, I will be weak as any normal guy. I will not be able to break them, and I will lose all my strength. She goes, cool, awesome. So she goes the next day to her Philistine, people that are paying her off, and she's like, hey, if you get 7 fresh ropes and tie him up, he'll be stuck and he won't be able to do anything. And they're like, awesome, let's do it. So the next night they're at their house and they do their thing, and they're sleeping. He's dead asleep. Samson is knocked out. The assassin, apparently, I think the Bible even says like there were like assassins in the room, like the whole, like just hiding somewhere in the room the whole time. Like, just kind of an awkward idea, like just like a ninja assassin just hiding behind the curtain while you're like banging Delilah. And anyway, so he falls asleep. Samson falls asleep, and the ninja comes out, the assassin comes out and ties him up with 7 fresh ropes. And they're like, okay, we're good. And he kind of calls in his buddies, the other like Philistines. They kind of go through this whole like charade where they like Delilah wakes him up. He like pushes him, shoves him. It's like, Samson, the Philistines are here, wake up. And he wakes up, and he just like just breaks all the new 7 fresh ropes. He just breaks them like they're nothing and beats the shit out of all the Philistines. And like, he didn't kill him, I don't think. They just ran away. But Yeah, it's funny because it's just kind of like the end of the passage as far as I remember. He doesn't ever talk about like, man, how did those ropes get on me? Or like, very, very funny how what a coincidence. I just last night told you that 7 ropes, and here they were, 7 ropes are when I was in the middle of sleeping. How curious. All right, let's go back to bed, Delilah. You're amazing. Like, didn't maybe come to his mind at all. I don't know. I'd be a little like a high coincidence. I don't know. Anyway, so they do it again. She does it at the same time. She's like that was a close call. Yeah, I'm really glad they don't know your real secret. Clearly, that one was a fake one. By the way, like, what is a secret? What, what? Oh, actually, I take it back. I think I overstepped. Again, welcome to Getting Biblical, the show where I drink too much and talk about my favorite Bible stories. I got ahead of myself. So she ties them up with the 7 new ropes or whatever. I think they might have called them bowstrings or something like that in the Bible. And she says, "Wake up, wake up! The Philistines are here." And when he does that, they don't actually come out. I don't think. Now that I'm thinking about it, they don't actually come out of their hiding spots. The assassins are just hanging out there. But he wakes up when she wakes him and says, "Hey, they're here." He jumps out of bed and just rips the ropes right off of him and "Where are they at? Where are they?" So he doesn't actually beat anybody up at that night, I don't believe. So she said, "What's your secret?" And he said 7 fresh ropes. She ties him up while he's asleep. She wakes him up and says, "Hey, they're here." The assassins stay hidden. He breaks out of the ropes and "Where are they at?" And she's like, "You lied to me. What's the deal with that?" And he's like, he doesn't even say that. He's like, "You tied me up. What's the deal with that? I told you my secret, and then you did my secret. What the hell? Not okay." But she starts complaining, and she's like, "What's the real secret? Why do you have secrets? What are you keeping from me? Let me see your cell phone. Who you been talking to? That type of thing." And he says, "Okay." So he's like, "Here's the deal. If you put my hair in braids, then I'll lose all my power." She's like, "What?" She's like, "That's "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Yeah, if you bring in, I don't know if he had he must have a long hair, right? Because he never could have cut it his whole life, so he was definitely like Fabio or whatever, long hair. He's at least 30, if not older, 40 or so at this point, and just never has ever cut his hair. And so she literally, while he's sleeping, she brings in a big loom and weaves all of his hair together and basically knits a quilt or something with his hair. And my guy, man, he sleeps through the whole thing. He is knocked out. She just braids his whole hair, and again she wakes him up. "The Philistines are coming, they're here." And he jumps out of bed, and while his hair is still in the loom, it was still intertwined in this machinery to braid things, and he jumps out of bed and pulls with his hair and everything, and it just breaks the machine and breaks the loom, whatever, together, and no fucks given. And he's like, "Where are they? Where are they?" So she gets real upset again, and she pesters. And I don't know why he wasn't why were you braiding my hair right now? Why? We're now 2 for 2. This is a coincidence of things that I'm telling you, and then they're happening. Whatever. I'm not privy to some of the finer details of the story of how it happened. But so she gets upset and she pesters him every day for a while. And then finally, when he can't stand it anymore, he tells her the truth. He says, "Hey, look, so God made a deal with my parents. And when I was in the womb, the whole Nazirite vow thing that I talked about earlier, he says, my hair has never been cut. If you cut my hair, I will lose all of my strength. That's my secret." And Delilah believed him. She knew he was telling the truth this time, I guess. That's what the Bible says. The Bible says that she knew he was telling the truth. So she called in the Philistine assassins again. This time, I guess they believed her straight up. They gave her the money, And then Samson, they did their deed, and Samson went to sleep. And she had one of the assassins dudes come in and shave his head. They cut off all his hair. So now he's bald and he's got no hair. And again, like, I mean, we've all, I guess, been in like the frat parties or whatever, where like we did shave a guy while he was drunk. It can be done. Yeah, never mind. I take it back. I was gonna say, like, how asleep do you have to be for your hair to be shaved off and you not even wake up or know it? But I mean, I've done it. I'm as bad as a Philistine, I guess. So anyway, but I digress. So she wakes up again and is like, the Philistines are here, and he jumps up out of bed, and now he's bald, and he's all cocky, and he says, I beat him before, I'll beat him again, no big deal. But he didn't know that God had departed from him, and he didn't have his strength. And the Philistines ran in, held him down. They were so pissed off that they gouged out his eyes. Yes, that escalated very quickly. like this man lost his lifelong flowing Fabio hair and his eyeballs all within 30 minutes. Just what a travesty. No, it sad, but they'd been 20 plus years of wanting to kill this guy, so of course they're gonna be like, we got him, we're holding him down now, we're gonna do what we gotta do. So they gorged out his eyes. Gorged, that's like eating too much, right? They gouged out, again, welcome to Kidding Biblical, the show where I talk about Bible stories and drink too much. Gouged out his eyes. They take him off and they put him in a prison, and so now Samson has no hair, no eyes, and the strength of the Lord left him, so he's puny, and he's put into prison and put into big bronze shackles, and they make him do hard labor, which is even harder than normal hard labor, because he was used to being like super strong from God, and now he was normal strong, so hard labor, I'm sure, was even worse. So it was really having a time of it, having a real hard spot, not being able to see, and also still doing hard labor. God bless him. I mean, I've said some mean things about him before. I mean, I feel bad for anyone who gets their eyes gouged out because your girlfriend betrayed you. That's a rough pill to swallow. Anyway, but the Philistines are there. Some time had gone by. I don't know how long he was in prison doing the hard labor, but it was for a minute. But they maybe a few months, maybe even up to a year. The rulers of the Philistines decided that they wanted to have a big feast and sacrifice to their god, because they were maybe it was more recent than this, I don't know, but like it was definitely kind of like in relation to them capturing Samson, but also like the way that governments work, like it takes a while, so I don't know, who knows. But their god, I believe it was Dagon, they wanted to sacrifice, maybe I guess some goats, whatever. They wanted to sacrifice to their god, and just being super happy that Samson was taken care of and he wasn't a thorn in their side anymore. So they wanted to sacrifice to their god and appreciate that. I think there's like 3,000 of them having just this big old party, and they're just living it up and so glad to be done with that Samson dick. One of them, and it's a big, I don't know how long, I can't remember, I think the Bible says it, but that it's a big old, just like that bachelor party was like a 7-day long affair, this was a big party for like a long time. While they're in the middle of the party, one of the guys is like, hey, we're having this big party because we captured Samson and plucked his eyes out. Why don't we bring him here? Like that would be the best, icing on the cake or whatever, cherry on top for this party. So they go and they get Samson from the prison and they bring him into the middle of this party. They take his bronze shackles and they tie him up in the middle of the room. There's these two pillars in the room that they tie him up to, like kind of like one hand to each one, I guess. They lock and they're just having it's kind of a dick thing to do. I mean, just having a big old party. You're eating and you're drinking, and this guy with no eyes, and he's just shackled to a couple pillars, and you're just having a great old party in celebration of what you did to this guy. Like it seems like this is probably why these are bad guys, right? These are not the nice guys. They're not the the misunderstood Philistines. They're not the whatever. Seen from a different perspective, the Philistines maybe were the good guys all along. I don't know if it was that situation, because that's kind of a sadistic thing to do. But anyway, so he's there. There's these two big pillars, and they shackle him up to the pillars, and he's center stage for the whole party, and they're just having a good old time. But what they didn't count on while they were doing that was that it had been long enough that his hair had started to grow, and it wasn't as long as it normal it had been, but it had started to grow back out. And I don't know quite what the limit is on when you promise not to cut your hair, like how long it has to be before you're in God's good graces again. But apparently it was getting pretty close. Samson being there with all these people around, he prays to God, and he's like, hey, please, man, just one last time, give me the superpowers, give me the power so I can get revenge on these dicks for taking my eyeballs. Please, just one last time, like, give me that strength. God hears him, and God says, I got you, dog. Like, here you go. And so God fills him up with power. Samson, he like pushes and pulls the chains and the shackles and the pillars, and I don't know if he pushes them off or he pulls them together like makes a big cross with his arms and just like yanks them down. I don't know how it went down exactly, but either way, he topples the pillars, which were clearly load-bearing pillars. The whole place, the whole building comes down. He breaks those pillars, and the whole roof collapses and kills everybody. So in his last moments, he ends up taking out 3,000 of these dicks here. The Bible says specifically, it's very, very curious that they specifically noted, but they said in that one day, in the moment of his death, he killed more people than he did all the days he was alive. Which I guess is something to brag about. Yeah, and that was it. And these weren't also just anybody. This was just 3,000 of nobodies, or like the 30 guys that he killed to take their clothes. These were the rulers. These were the head honchos, right? The government, the people in power. And so by killing them, he then kind of laid waste to the whole government of the Philistines, and they weren't in a position to be in power at that moment, which led the Israelites to being free, and which was the promise so many years ago. They had been in bondage, I think, 40 years, as we said in the last episode, and then this was another, let's say, 20 years when he tried to marry the first girl, and then 20 years later or so. So we're like 80 years now that the Israelites were under the Philistine control, give or take, and dirty math or whatever on all that. But yeah, like 80 years or so, and Samson did it. God kept his promise. He said Samson's going to be the guy to do it, and he did it. Wasn't a super happy story for Samson. I did say that when he pushed down the pillars and the ceiling collapsed, it killed everyone, including Samson. This isn't the Captain America story that you're used to. Our hero does not escape. He does die as well, but his eyes were gone, so he's probably happier. But and that was it. It says that his family members got his body out of the rubble, and they buried him by his father, and that's it. That is the story of Samson, God's superhero. God's superhero. I was going to say the Bible superhero, but whatever you want to call it. Thank you for joining us today. Please tune in next time. What am I talking about? Oh, we're going to talk about one of the first badass women in the Bible. I hope you guys have a great day. Cheers.